What a great honor and privilege it is to join with some of the most distinguished voices in the international community today and to speak to some of the bravest people in the world today who have had such an enormous impact and will continue to have an enormous impact on trying to bring about peace to the Middle East and to the world. Your organization, headed by the unbelievable and brave and bold Mrs. Rajavi, has sacrificed so much in the interests of bringing about justice and peace. And we gather together at a most auspicious time. This is an incredibly important time in the history of the Iranian people, in the history of the Middle East, and the history of the world. Let me explain why I believe that. Uh, the Iranian regime, the evil mullahs of the Iranian regime, have never been more vulnerable to regime change coming from within, never been more vulnerable, but at the same time, they've never been more dangerous to the Iranian people, to the people of the Middle East, and to the people of the world. As Mrs. Rajavi has correctly pointed out, today, after this regime has brought much of the Middle East and large parts of the world to destruction, there is widespread agreement in the West that the current regime in Iran is the main source of terrorism, war, and instability. And nobody can deny that. Until very recently, the Iranian regime had their tentacles out in all parts of the world, starting in the Middle East, where they had obviously surrogates, evil surrogates, dangerous surrogates, such as Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis. But their reach isn't limited to the Middle East. They have agents we know all over the world. We know that they have been involved in plots against brave individuals, both from this wonderful organization, but also just peace-loving people have been targeted, ranging from peace seekers to political people to religious people, have been subject to assassination and threats of assassination. One of my dear close friends from who was a former Minister of Justice in Canada was subject to a fatwa and has to live his life surrounded by Canadian Royal Mounted police for doing only one thing, for advocating peace, for advocating regime change, for advocating what is best for the people of Iran. So this is a regime that is extraordinarily dangerous at the same time that it's extraordinarily vulnerable. And it's this combination of facts, increased vulnerability, and the potential access to nuclear weapons that makes this such a dangerous a time. There's no question that the regime has been weakened over the past several months. Its surrogates have been weakened in Lebanon and in the Gaza Strip and in Yemen. It cannot any longer count on these surrogates to do its work for them. Remember, for years, Iran has said, we will defend, we will fight against this, we will do, to the last Lebanese person, to the last person in Gaza, and to the last person in Yemen. They have not put their own army at risk for the most part. They've used surrogates. Those surrogates have been extraordinarily weakened. So too has Iran's defense posture been weakened. Many of its air defenses have been destroyed. Now, when you get a regime that lacks the capacity to fight with traditional means, using surrogates, using defense mechanisms, but is on the verge of possibly developing nuclear weapons, nothing could be more dangerous than that combination. When you have a government with nuclear weapons, but which also has conventional armies and conventional abilities to fight, all right, that's very dangerous too. That we know exists in many parts of the world today. But when you have a regime that's lost its capacity to fight, except through nuclear potential warfare and nuclear arsenals, that makes the accession of nuclear weapons even more dangerous. That's why the title of this conference tells us so much about what we need to be focusing on. Just to remind you, the title, Iran's Future, a free, non-nuclear republic alternative to theocracy. That's not just a dream, that's a necessity. There must be a republic alternative to theocracy that does not have nuclear weapons. And certainly, if the alternative doesn't come into being, and we are talking about continuing the regime, it cannot be nuclear armed. The United States and Iran are engaged in negotiations. Iran has set out some red lines, which are probably unacceptable to the United States. The Trump regime has made it clear that they would prefer a non-military solution to the problem, but they've also made it very clear that they will not accept, under any circumstances, an Iranian regime with nuclear weapons. Now, previous administrations have said the same thing, but this administration seems to really mean it. And so Iran is faced with what is for them a difficult choice, namely to voluntarily do, for example, what the Libyan regime did some years ago, really genuinely give up its nuclear capacity. And we saw what happened to that regime and to the tyrant that ran that regime, and Gaddafi, and the overthrowing of that regime. It faces that alternative, or it faces the realistic prospect of military action, taken either in combination of a couple of countries or certainly with the support of the United States. None of us knows, as we sit here today, what the Iranian regime will do. The only thing we can all be sure of, and everybody in this room agrees with this, you cannot trust the current Iranian regime to keep any deal or any negotiation or any agreement. We saw that with the previous agreement. We know it was cheating. We know that despite the fact that the regime misused religion by announcing that it had a fatwa against the use of nuclear weapons, we know that for a fact it was developing nuclear weapons. We know because as the result of intelligence provided by this wonderful organization, the Iranian secrets have been exposed, and no organization has been more important in making it clear to the world that Iran doesn't keep its promises and that it cannot be trusted. Now, there are some who say, well, it can be trusted because the MEK and other groups like that will keep an eye on what's going on. No, that's not enough. That's not enough. There must be an absolute assurance that Iran can never develop nuclear arsenals. Now, the Iranians come back and they say, well, but if we have to give up our nuclear weapons, that makes us more vulnerable to regime change. That's good. That's good. That may have been what contributed to regime change. We're not sure, of course, but contributed to regime change in Libya. And so remember, too, that the Iranian resistance, these wonderful people who are so willing to give up their lives, their liberty, their fortunes to achieve peace, these people have never asked the United States for armed intervention. They've never asked the United States for anything but the ability to fight their own battles. I completely support the attempt to get the Senate to pass a bill, the entire Congress, hopefully to pass a bill that recognizes the right of the resistance units to fight against the Revolutionary Guard to overthrow the regime. There were opportunities in the past for the United States to do what it could do to help, at least not to hinder. And unfortunately, the United States has not played the role it could have played in helping to bring about regime change. If regime change had been brought about years ago, consider how many lives of innocent people could have been saved. And so we live in this crucial time. There probably has never been a more dangerous time, and at the same time, a more opportune time to do what we all want to do. And none of us will rest until we see democracy, republic, freedom, elections. And we know what the result of elections would be in Iran. The Iranian people, for the most part, are wonderful. And they want freedom, and they want independence, and they want the ability to express their views and to practice their religion as they choose to. They don't want to be dominated by a regime that murders people, that throws people off roofs, that hangs people from gallows. We join together. We have common interests. We in the United States and in the free world and in the Western world and throughout the world, we have a common interest in a free Iran, an Iran that can contribute so much. The Bible talks about turning swords into plowshares. If the Iranian people could turn their nuclear ambitions into, or the Iranian regime could turn its nuclear ambitions into nuclear medicine, can you imagine what would happen to the world if there were an Iranian republic of the kind that Mr. Rajavi has talking about, a free republic with great institutions of learning, great academic institutions, which can share its magnificent technological advantages to the world. And instead of using them to try to create a nuclear arsenal, use them to create the kinds of technological changes that will make the world a better place. So I look forward as often as I can to joining with this wonderful group that has done so much already and can do so much. And we have to remember that there's no returning to the past. We have to look to the future, the bright future. And the bright future is what Mrs. Rajavi has pointed out in her 10-point program, which every person in the world should read. It should be hanged on every billboard. If Iran could be turned into the 10-point program that we've seen set out, what a beautiful world we can live in. So I want to tell you that as long as the good Lord gives me the strength to fight for justice, something I've been doing for the last 70 years of my life, I will support this cause, and I will urge others to support this cause. And I will hope that we will all live long enough to see a regime change and to see an Iranian regime, democratic, Republican, principled, with elections, with free speech, with freedom of thought, freedom of conscience. And what a world we will live in if we can see that change. And if a change occurs there, it can occur anywhere. And so right now, the Iranian people need our help, and we have to give them our help in every way we can. And the best way to do it is to support Mrs. Rajavi, to support her 10-point program, to support a non-nuclear Iran, a non-nuclear republic alternative to the terrible, terrible regime that we see in Iran today. So go forward with strength. You have my support, and I know you have the support of good people all over the world. Thank you for the privilege of addressing you today.